I just uploaded my 2025 room tour video here on YouTube, and I went over everything that I have, but I couldn't do it in too much detail, otherwise the video would be like 10 hours long, and who wants to watch that? So I mentioned that I was going to do separate videos going over specific parts of the collection in a little bit more detail, and this is the first one, and today we're looking at the Nintendo Virtual Boy collection. Before we jump into actually looking at the games, I wanted to mention a couple things. Number one, I uploaded a video not too long ago where I played every North American Virtual Boy game and did little like mini reviews on them. So if that's what you're looking for out of this video, you're not gonna really see too much of it. I would check out the other one. We will link to that down below. Number two, I do own the full North American CIB Virtual Boy library. Now, what does that mean for maybe someone who is not into collecting? So CIB typically either stands for Complete in Box or Cartridge Instructions Box. People will use CIB even for disc-based games, so it kind of just means complete, basically. So what that means for Virtual Boy is that you have the original game cartridge, you have the instruction manual, and the box, and I have that for all the Virtual Boy games that I own. On top of that, my collection is what I would call like 100% complete, because I also have all of the little plastic covers that go on the bottom of the cartridges, and then I have the baggies for every cartridge as well, and the cardboard inserts for the boxes, and any sort of other like promotional insert or paper or anything like that. All my games are 100% complete. There were a total of 14 games released for the Virtual Boy in North America, and then in Japan there's a handful of extra ones that did not come out here. I have all the North American ones and I have most of the Japanese ones, but there's some that I'm still missing from that set. I'm not super focused on trying to complete that because a lot of the games are the same ones. There's only a handful of Japanese exclusives. Some of them can be very, very expensive though, and I'd rather focus on buying other North American games I need for my collection like Super Nintendo or PS2 or something like that. So I kind of just get the Virtual Boy games when I come across them, which honestly isn't very often. This is the corner of the room that I film in quite often. We have Nintendo 64 games here and GameCube here. I even shot the intro for this video right here, and directly below on the shelf here is where my Virtual Boy collection is stored. At least for the most part. That's almost everything, but I do have the Virtual Boy console stored right up here, and then I also have a kiosk, which is right here next to the other countertop kiosks on top of the Game Boy cabinet. This kiosk is pretty cool. There are multiple different versions of the Virtual Boy kiosk. This is the countertop version. It has the plastic base and everything is fully working. This is typically what I play Virtual Boy games on when I do play. Once again, not that often, but for the video, when I played all the games and did little mini reviews, this is what I was playing them on. In addition to having every North American game and some of the Japanese ones, like I said, I do have some complete in box accessories as well. We have the North American AC adapter set. Found this at a like flea market, thrift store type of place. And then we also have the Japanese version here. We have a set of earbuds, which is very interesting. Those did not get released in North America. And then we have the Japanese boxed visor, which is the little like foam piece that goes around the eyes. And then in addition to the games as well, I do have one not for resale demo cartridge. So this is what would have maybe originally been in that countertop kiosk that I have. I believe there are a few different not for resale demo carts for the Virtual Boy, so this is just one of them, but this is the only one that I currently own. Unfortunately, the Virtual Boy was a failure for Nintendo. It's actually their worst selling console, and because of that, and because there are so few games, they didn't really produce the console for that long, so it's kind of hard to find, and it's actually the most expensive Nintendo console that you can purchase as well. That is excluding like limited edition variants and stuff like that, but just for the actual normal consoles, even including all the handheld stuff and Switch, the Virtual Boy is still more expensive to get one in working condition. Most Virtual Boy games, unfortunately, are just not very good. A lot of these games are ones that you might find interesting to check out for a couple minutes here or there, but they're not the kind of games that you're going to want to go back to and play over and over, with maybe only a couple exceptions. When I went through and played all of them, there were only 3 games that I really thought were decent, and that would be Nestor's Funky Bowling, Wario Land, and Jack Bros. And talking about Jack Bros, it is actually the most expensive and rarest Virtual Boy game that was released, at least in the US. There's a couple really expensive Japanese games that I don't really know if they're more rare than Jack Bros, because the demand for the Japanese games is just so much lower. There's not that many people looking for them. They don't sell quite as often. They are very expensive, Jack Bros being more expensive than them, but you know, demand also plays into the price. It's not always just rarity that determines the price of a game. So I don't know if the Japanese ones are more rare, but at least for the US, Jack Bros is the most expensive game, which is very interesting to me because it's one of the best, if not the best Virtual Boy game. And it was released by Atlas, which now owned by Sega, but you know, they have been responsible for some of the biggest like RPG franchises and games that everyone loves. So to me, it seems like Jack Bros would have sold way better than something like Telero Boxer, Vertical Force, or you know, Golf. But for some reason it didn't, and it's really, really hard to find. So if you are a collector and you're interested in going after Virtual Boy games, if you're going to go loose cartridge, it's going to be pretty easy to complete, especially if you're willing to either purchase things off of eBay or if you're going to a bunch of conventions. Getting the loose cartridge set is going to be very, very easy. I would expect between 1, maybe 2 conventions, you could complete it. It's not that hard. If you're going to go complete in box, that's where you're going to run into some issues because Jack Bros is thousands of dollars and it's very hard to find with the original box and manual. The other game that you might have a little bit of trouble with is Waterworld, which it's not the absolute worst game on the Virtual Boy, but it's pretty bad. That one, I understand why that one might be a little bit more rare because it's so bad. It's a weird movie tie-in, and the game just doesn't really seem to have much to do with the movie. The movie also didn't do very well, so that game makes sense that it's kind of hard to find. It's nowhere near as expensive as Jack Bros, but still, it's one that might be a little tough to get if you're looking for complete in box. My copy of Waterworld has this original receipt from a Toys R Us, which is so cool, and they only paid $13 for this game, and that was in 1997. What a great deal considering this game complete in box now goes for about 450 bucks. Another thing that I wanted to mention that I think is interesting based on my collection is that my Mario Tennis box is a reproduction. And that is super interesting because I normally don't collect that type of stuff. I usually go for complete in box only. I don't collect bootlegs, anything like that. And so why would I have a reproduction Mario Tennis box? There's a good reason. Number one, this game was never released in its own packaging. This was a pack-in game with the console. That was the only way you could buy the game. Now, there does exist a display box that was used to advertise Mario's Tennis back in the day, whether that was at a place like GameStop or Game Crazy or maybe even Blockbuster, I'm not sure. But that box is not technically an official released box. It was just a display or promotional item. Most people that collect Virtual Boy games, they do want to get that box, as I do as well, to house their copy of Mario Tennis. I do have one that's in the console box where it originally came, but I have a second copy of Mario Tennis that I like to keep on the shelf with the games. And so I picked up this reproduction box just so that it fit in and it made sense on the shelf. I am on the lookout for the official display box for Mario's Tennis, but this is the one that I have for now, and it's just going to have to make do until I can actually find one. They're not very common, they're kind of expensive, and so I try to find everything in person if I can, so that means for this, trying to find it at a convention because this isn't gonna walk into my store, or I'm not gonna walk into some other random game store and see it on the shelf. It's gonna have to be something that I probably pick up at a convention in the future. So anytime we talk about a big collection, one of the questions everyone has is, how much is it worth? And while I can't do this for everything in the game room because it would take too long, the Virtual Boy collection is pretty small, so I did go through and I added up all of the current price chart value, which, as you guys probably know, price charting is not 100% accurate, but it gives us a good base idea. So for the entire Virtual Boy collection, minus the kiosk, so that would be the console in box, all the accessories, and all the North American and Japanese games, it's worth a little over $6,700. But if you're curious about just the 14 North American complete in box games, those are just over $3,700. And obviously, I've been collecting for years. I completed this set years ago at this point, and prices have just continued to rise for some of the titles. So luckily, I didn't pay anywhere near that. Jack Bros was actually a gift from my awesome girlfriend, Abby. So my cost that's into these is much, much lower. I don't really know exactly how much that is, but it's not too much. And But yeah, like I said earlier, if you're looking to go after Virtual Boy games now, because it's such a small set, it's not that difficult. Some of the games are very expensive, and like I said, prices have been going up, but it's still obtainable, right? It's not like going after the PS2 set where there's 1,800 games and there's a handful of them that are, you know, 500 bucks and up. Virtual Boy, there's really only a couple you have to worry about price-wise. It's just finding them that's kind of difficult. So there it is, guys, my entire Virtual Boy collection. Hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know in the comments which part of the collection you want me to focus on next. I plan on doing videos like this, going through every part of the collection, but let me know what you guys want to see in the next episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.